Kia ora, welcome to our Smart series, where we share practical payroll advice to help you keep compliant and run your business smarter. Today, we'll be taking you through our 4-step guide to completing a leave review for your employees. By the end of this video, you should have a good understanding of what a leave review is, why it's important, and how to get started. A leave review is the process of regularly checking your employees' setup in payroll and ensuring their leave is being calculated correctly. It might seem like a small task, but the consequences of getting leave wrong can be significant. We recommend that employers carry these out at least once a year. By completing annual leave reviews, you demonstrate compliance, minimise risk, reduce your potential workload, and have peace of mind of knowing that your employees are receiving their correct pay and leave entitlements. Now we know what leave reviews are, but why do we need them? After all, aren't leave entitlements outlined in employment contracts? They certainly are, but if an employee has a change in the number of hours they work, or even the days they work on, this can affect leave entitlements. Imagine a part-time employee only works on Thursdays and Fridays. If they later change their work days to Mondays and Tuesdays, any public holidays that fall on Monday may mean a paid day off for the employee. Similarly, if your company decides to alter or add new benefits for your staff, this can impact how the payments for leave is calculated. Here are 4 key steps to help you get started. Step 1. Review what's in your employees' employment agreements. It's important that whoever is responsible for payroll has knowledge of all employee entitlements and can check these are accurately reflected in the payroll setup. If there are contractual bonuses, incentives, or terms around overtime, whoever handles payroll needs to know. Step 2. Review the standard hours that your employees work. If someone has a shift in their role, businesses can often forget to update their payroll to reflect the employee's new hours. If there has been a change in an employee's standard hours, you'll need to check that this change has been logged in your payroll and you're continuing to calculate their leave payments correctly. This can happen when an employee works regular unscheduled overtime, or if a staff member changes from part-time to full-time, and vice versa. Step 3. Check that your employees' payment rates are still correct for family violence, bereavement leave, alternative holidays, public holidays, and sick leave. This is where it can get a bit tricky. The amount of leave you pay an employee will either be based on their relevant daily pay, otherwise known as their RDP, or their average daily pay, or ADP. So let's start with RDP. If you know what an employee would have earned had they come into work that day, you'd pay them that amount, known as the RDP. Most salaried employees are paid RDP because they get paid the same amount per day regardless of their hours worked. Even rostered employees can be paid their RDP if they strictly work their standard rostered hours and aren't regularly working more or less hours. But if an employee's daily hours vary, or if they regularly receive additional but variable payments such as commission or unscheduled overtime, you may need to use their average daily pay instead. This is for when you can't accurately predict how much you would have paid them had they come into work that day. Now let's look at how to calculate average daily pay. To work out this payment, take the employee's gross earnings over 52 weeks and then divide this by the number of days the employee worked or was on paid leave or holidays during that period. The number you're left with will be the employee's average daily pay. Step 4. Check that your employees' payment rates are still correct for annual leave calculations. According to the Holidays Act, employees must receive 4 weeks of annual leave per year based on what a working week is for them. However, not every employee has a standard working week. This is where businesses can run into a little bit of trouble and require some extra care. So let's talk about how to calculate annual leave. When it comes to calculating annual leave, there are 2 different types of payments which can be used. There is ordinary weekly pay, known as OWP, and average weekly earnings, or AWE. Businesses must use the greater of these two rates to calculate annual leave for their employees. So it's important that you understand the differences and can confidently apply the correct payment type for each individual employee. Let's discuss the two. Ordinary weekly pay is the amount an employee receives under their employment agreement for an ordinary working week. If the employee works standard hours every week, and you know exactly what they would be paid if they were at work, they will most likely be paid their ordinary weekly pay. You should include any payments that are a regular part of an employee's pay, such as regular overtime, allowances, or productivity or incentive-based payments. In some situations, an employee may also receive regular but unpredictable payments in addition to their ordinary pay rate. These could be variable overtime payments or incentive payments. It isn't always possible to work out ordinary weekly pay in terms of the amount an employee normally receives for an ordinary working week. If this is the case, you can consider paying their ordinary weekly pay based on the average of their previous 4 weeks' earnings. Average weekly earnings says it all in the name. They are based on an employee's average earnings per week over a 52-week period. These include any payments that the employer is required to pay to the employee under the employment agreement. This means any contractual bonuses should be included, even though the exact amount of the bonus may depend on performance measures. While discretionary payments can be excluded, make sure you check these are truly discretionary and aren't reflected in some way in the employment agreement. By now, you should have a good understanding on the basics when it comes to leave reviews. For more handy hints and payroll advice, have a look at the rest of our Smart series, brought to you by Smart Payroll.